In this video, we're going to check out 5 custom workbenches from the community, and these are all different. They're used in different situations. They're made to be different sizes, but one thing they do have in common is the fact that they're made with off-the-shelf electrical conduit and clamps from MakerPipe.com. And you can combine these two materials to build all kinds of stuff, including custom workbenches for your garage or home. And we're just going to check out a few that were shared in the MakerPipe community over the years. This first one comes from William, and I think this is one of the best designs for a workbench or even for a desk. If you want to turn this into that. But this one is made to be a little bit higher than a desk. It has wheels on the bottom so you can roll it around. And this is just a really simple solution with just a few connections. You've got really just 2 main connector types being used here. You've got in the top corners that we can't really see, the 90-degree connectors, and those are being used to make this kind of 3-way corner connection. So you've got the verticals that run up to there, and then you've got the one on each corner, but then you've got the piece of conduit that terminates in the connector and goes from one side to the other for the front and the back. And if you don't know what MakerPipe clamps are, they're made to just clamp around empty conduit. You don't have to do any welding, and so you can easily assemble all kinds of different things. And essentially here we've got a piece that runs front to back on both sides, and then we've got those 2 pieces in the front, or one in the front, one in the back, and that just kind of all connects together to make this rectangle. And that's a pretty basic shape that you can put together really easily and then kind of customize that from there. And down here we've got just a few more connectors to add this brace, which is definitely helpful and I would say probably necessary to have in these kind of builds if you're going to be rolling this around and putting heavier stuff on top. But essentially you've just got a piece of conduit going from the front to the back, kind of similar to the top connection that we just looked at. But then you've got this piece of conduit going from one side to the other, and this just provides that support all the way to the other side. And if you're going to use this as a desk, I would slide that support back, maybe replace 2 of those T's with 90s and kind of do a similar rectangle to the top. But here for a workbench, this is really simple to do, just a handful of connectors, and it works really awesome. You can customize this, put whatever kind of top you want on there, and then you can add casters or just adjustable feet, however you want to do it, and you have a lot of options for this. So this is a really great one. I think just a really fantastic and simple design that you can recreate if you need a workbench. But really appreciate you sharing this, William. Awesome job. Next up is more of a work cart than a workbench, but it does have a surface up top for drafting and planning out things. But this is more of a narrow project, but it actually uses similar connectors. So all 3 sections of this actually the very top section and the very bottom section use that same connector, which is the 90-degree, to make that corner connection. And we're going to see that really commonly throughout all these builds. And then essentially from there, we just have more T connectors like we saw in the previous build, except these are used to also add some bracing. But in addition to that, they're also supporting this, what is that, air compressor? Yeah, air compressor as well, which is really cool. And then up here, they're using T connectors to add this front to back bar. And then they have attached some drawer sliders to this piece of conduit. Not entirely sure how they did that, maybe using some hanger straps. We actually have a video where we talked about this solution a while back that I'll link down below. But essentially they secured some drawer slides on there, which allows them to be able to slide out this drawer, as we can see here. And that's really cool. And just a really compact cart that has a lot of functionality, has a lamp built into it, as we can see up top, has an electrical strip attached to the tube there, and then he's got some cable routing. He's got the air hose from the compressor coming off of there and secured, and just a really cool build, and just a really small one, but adds a lot of utility. You could roll this around, plug this into wall. You have a bunch of outlets really close by, and then you've got a place to keep notes and store some different small tools and different things. And just all in all, it's a really cool build from Drew, and I think really useful, and gives you some ideas hopefully for your own workbench or work cart similarly. So thanks so much for sharing this. Awesome job. Next up is a work table and shelving system that was put together by Isaac, and he is doing some leather making, I believe. And as we can see there's like a leather messenger bag being made. Got some different storage supplies down here, materials being stored on that back shelf. But essentially just use MakerPipe and conduit to make a larger table, as we can see here, using similar connectors. There's a 90 in the corner and at the very bottom to kind of make this cube shape. Got casters on it, just like the first and second build, to be able to roll this around. That's really helpful around the shop or wherever it is that you're working. And then we can see here some new connectors that we haven't seen yet, which is the 180-degree connector being used up top there. Actually, that's probably the same as the one down here, which is a four-way connector, which allows you to have kind of extend frames and add a vertical support to your frame, and then also add a piece of conduit going from one side to the other, as we can see here. And so I think he's using that up top as well, just to provide some more support for the tabletop that he's got on the very top of the build there, which is really cool. And then he's actually utilizing the through pipe connection. So this piece of conduit is running continuously through all three connections and extending all the way up to the top here. And he's actually using that to add some more function and utility to the frame, and is just hanging off some materials and some different things off of that top bar, which is really awesome. And then in the back there, we can see a shelf, which essentially is just a bunch of 90-degree connectors just to make a tiered shelf. You can customize those if you want it to be taller up. If you've got large items like totes that you're putting on there, or if you've got smaller ones, you can close that gap and make the dimension between shelves smaller or longer, depending on what you're working with. So that's really cool, and just kind of showcases how custom you can get when you're making custom shelves and workbenches in your workshop. So this is really cool. Thanks so much for sharing this. Next up is a simple workbench from Keith, and this is very similar to the first one that we looked at, but I wanted to highlight it because it shows that you can, take a simple design and customize it even further. So very similarly, we've got 90-degree connectors being used in the top, T connector being used for the bar down here, casters on the bottom, but essentially this is just made to be longer, and it's made to have a bottom shelf instead of just that piece of conduit down there just adding support. Actually added some functionality to this by allowing that piece to hold and support a piece of plywood that he's using as a lower shelf, as you can see here. So from what it looks like, this seems to be the exact same design, just the 490s up top to make the main part of the rectangle, and then the T connectors being used to add these front to back bars, and then one going from one side to the other, except this difference is it's just longer, it looks like, and more narrow, and then also has that shelf on top on the bottom there. So pretty much just a piece of plywood on top of that horizontal crossbar. And then if you find you need more support, if you're going to be putting some heavier things on there, you can add more crossbars from one side to the other instead of just that single one, and that would add some more support. Same thing up top, kind of similar to what we saw with that previous build, where if you've got a lot of material you're going to be putting, or a lot of different things you're going to be putting on top that are heavy, you don't want the plywood to bow or to cave in, of course. So you might want to add some more crossbars, and you can do that really easily with T connectors. Or if you're working on like a bigger workbench like we saw with that previous build, you can just add a whole new connector and a vertical, and add some cross supports and extend your frame all at one time, which is really cool. But looks like you didn't really need to do that here, and just added a custom feature and made the dimensions custom for his space and his needs. Of course, got the casters on there as well to roll it around, just like we've been seeing. And all in all, just a really great idea, and not much different from that first build, but just goes to show that you can customize these for exactly where you're working and for whatever your needs are. So that's really cool, and definitely wanted to highlight that. Thanks so much, Keith. Last but not least is a workbench that we actually built on the YouTube channel that you can check out. And we actually used this build to illustrate the entire process of building with EMT conduit and maker pipe connectors. We built this workbench here. We started with just going through the basics of building, what conduit and connectors are, and then we went through and planned this out. We made a cut list, made a connector list, we mini modeled it, and went through the entire process of building a DIY project with conduit and connectors, so that you guys could learn how to do that if you're new to those materials. And this is a pretty cool workbench that we were happy with. Has some metal pegboard attached to the backside, so you can store tools and different things. It's got some good bracing in there using some T connectors and different techniques. I really liked how we did the bottom, which was we used casters in the back to be able to roll it around. And then in the front, I don't think I have a picture of it for some reason, but in the front, we used some replacement washer and dryer legs, which allow you to add some adjustable feet to the bottom of things. And that was pretty cool, and kind of made it so you had a built-in brake system, and then you could just lift up the front and roll this around. So that was pretty cool. But all in all, it wasn't too complicated of a build, and like I said, a great way to learn how to use the materials. And you could watch that and recreate this workbench exactly how I made it if you want to. I think it's pretty cool. It worked out really good. We've been using it. Or if you just want to learn how to build with conduit and connectors and learn how you can plan your own custom build, then that series is awesome for that, and I'll link that down below so you can check it out. But hopefully all these workbenches gave you some ideas for your own custom workshop tables and different workbenches that you can make. If you have any questions, feel free to leave those down below. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.